Sally said, thank you for joining us, everyone. Today we have an awesome guest, Jim from TE Connectivity, for our industry insights. As I said, my name is Christine Russell, and I see all of the undergraduate College of Business students, and I'm one of the career coaches in our office. And we have Allie today as well.
Hello, yes, so I'm Allie Irk. I'm the Associate Director for Graduate Student Career Development, so really excited for our guest, Jim Heitzenrater. Thanks so much for joining us. So, welcome.
Thank you.
So we wanted to just start off with some questions and get to know a little bit more about you. So we wanted to see if you could tell us a little bit more about your background, about your role with TE Connectivity.
Yeah. So my name is Jim Heitzenrater. I've been with TE a little over a year and a half at this point. I lead our university relations program in the U.S. And the scope of university relations for TE is recruiting and hiring our intern and co-op populations, recruiting for our leadership development programs, and then also supporting the summer intern program and working with those interns to hopefully convert them into full-time roles. Previous to TE, I worked for a chemical engineering company and a software engineering company in university relations and HR roles. I've been in the university relations space for about 6 years now.
Great. Thanks so much for sharing that. So thinking about all the different types of roles that you hire for with TE, what would you say are some of the top skills that you look for when hiring?
So TE is a global industrial technology company, and we focus mainly on the areas of connectors and sensors. So we mainly recruit for mechanical, electrical, industrial engineers. We also have strong recruiting efforts in supply chain, finance, data analytics, and we do hire some MBA students and master's level students for research and development and corporate strategy. Those are the main areas. We brought on close to 100 interns this year and about 25 rotational leadership development program hires this year.
That is helpful, thank you. And when you're thinking about we think about the application process, would you be able to talk at all about the applicant tracking system? I know that's sometimes a question that students tend to ask.
Yes, so for our internship and leadership development programs, we bucket our applications and roles into the specific skill sets that we're looking for, whether it's mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, industrial engineering, supply chain, finance, etc. We work with the different managers that are recruiting for those roles and build a job description based on what they're all looking for. We then add in some screening questions around work location, availability, to determine what roles are best for the students applying. And so we'll use those screening questions and your resumes and what the managers have said to forward those resumes from our tracking system over to those hiring managers so they can evaluate them. With each position that comes in, we speak to the managers to determine the specific skill sets that they're looking for. Because each business is a little bit different. You know, our aerospace, defense, and marine group might be looking for a slightly different skill set than our medical or our automotive group. So based on the skills and technologies listed on the resumes, we then move candidates over to the right hiring managers where we feel like they'd be the best fit. From there, the managers review and give us their feedback on those resumes. In some cases, we'll do a quick phone screen with my team. In other cases, we'll move you right to the hiring manager. From there might be one more round of interviews for intern positions. For rotational positions, it might be one more interview after that as well. But we, moving into the fall and this new cycle of recruiting, we really have to evaluate how we are going to be interviewing, what technologies we're going to be using, and the best ways to engage with the student population, because we probably won't be on campus as much as we have been in the past.
Yeah, and I appreciate there's definitely changes and everyone's been impacted, and so everyone's adapting. So it's good to hear a little bit about the process. Would you be able to speak at all into the timelines of the process when you're thinking about kind of those steps and how long through the application interview process, what would be some timelines along those steps?
So right now we're going through our forecasting and demand analysis for summer of 2021, December of 2020, to evaluate how many positions in each discipline we're going to be hiring. So we're working with the different business leaders and the different groups to identify those roles. Then in mid to late August, we'll begin to post our positions on our career site, on LinkedIn, on your career site, Handshake, etc. We'll start reviewing, sourcing, identifying candidates throughout September into October. We'll probably begin our interview process in early October. The goal is to be the majority of our positions filled by the end of the calendar year. But this year's going to be a little different, but we plan on keeping that schedule of doing the majority of our recruiting for both full-time and internship positions in the fall.
And I think that's really helpful as you walk through. And we touched on this a little bit of that, there's a lot of changes with COVID-19. Given some of the conditions, how important would you say it is for students to have an online presence of some sort?
I think it's important. I think it's nice because it's a chance to learn a little bit more about you than just a one-page resume. Having a professional LinkedIn profile with some engagement with different groups and sharing a little bit more about yourself is a great way to see and connect with you as well. You can feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm open to connecting, and you can see some of the content that we're sharing. It's a great way to learn more about what TE is, who we are, what our company values are by some of the content that we share out. We share out a lot of employee stories, intern stories, and so it's a cool way to learn a little bit more about who we are as a company before going through the application process and interview process.
Yeah, I think definitely doing that research really does help you to learn as much as possible and to help you to be successful. Along those lines, thinking about what else might help an individual to be successful, say once they're a new hire, do any tips come to mind that you're thinking that you might share?
So when you're a new hire, whether you're virtual or in person, I think building a network, asking questions, not being afraid to ask the questions or ask for more, being open and honest about communication styles with your management team is important. I think that, knowing how your manager communicates and how the best ways that you communicate and share feedback is important to continue to grow your career. And then taking opportunities to connect with people outside of your team, whether it's employee resource groups, just networking within your office. We have a handful of different employee resource groups, including a young professionals network that does a lot of great networking within different sites with business leaders. And it's a great way to get to know people that are in the same shoes as you, coming out of college and entering into the company.
Yeah, those tips of forming networks, asking questions, it's excellent advice. I'm thinking now we might move to the questions from students. I know sometimes students submit questions ahead of time and sometimes also put them in the chat. So Christine, do we have some questions from students?
I think you're on mute, Kristen.
Yes, I am. I'm here. Sorry. That happened so many times. So we did have a few that were emailed in, and you can just put them in the chat if you'd like me to ask Jim for you. So one of the questions that we had is, what is the top skill you believe we should develop during this time?
I think communication is always important, and I hate to harp on that, but over communicating in a time where you're not physically with a person. I can't pop my head over my cube wall and talk to my teammates right now. It's a ping. So setting up additional checkpoints, making sure people are comfortable with the format of the meetings that you're running, and getting feedback. That's one of the big things we're trying to do with our intern program this year, because about 50% of our interns are working virtually. So we're sending out surveys to our interns throughout the summer to make sure that they're staying engaged. They feel like the company culture is inclusive to them, whether they're on site or virtually working, making sure that their workloads are appropriate, and then sharing that feedback, kind of the summary of that to the managers to make sure that we're providing the experience that we should be to our intern population. So that over the summer we can make adjustments, add things, do a little less of certain things, to make sure that the experience is smooth and people feel comfortable during the internship or their full-time roles.
Speaking of the internship, you had said that that's a really vital pipeline for your full-time hires. About what percentage of the interns are offered a full-time position?
So last year, we made offers, whether it was a return internship or a return full-time role, to about 44% of our interns. It's something that is a goal of mine to continue to increase that number as we move forward. We're getting more and more buy-in from the different business units to treat this really as a development pipeline. And so I'm hoping that number continues to go up. We had acceptances from about 37% of our interns that are joining us for return internships or full-time roles.
That's great. That's great. We have another question that came up. It said, which field at TE do you see the most growth over the next few years?
So I think it's really going to depend on which specific business unit you're talking about. You know, I see in the chat with the electric vehicles, our hybrid electric group in our automotive channel is going to get busier and busier as cars move more towards that model. Now, with our sensors group, it might be a little bit different, like what they're looking at specifically growing. Our medical division would be looking for different skill sets and areas of growth over time. Our automotive group is our biggest business unit. And so I think definitely around hybrid electric vehicles, I think around, as I look at some of the information here, you know, everything from, you know, data and devices. We provide connectors and sensors to companies like Google and Amazon. And those connectors that they use in their servers are more energy efficient, they give off less heat. So then Google and Amazon have to pay less money to cool their servers. So it's really going to depend on the area.
That's great. It's nice to hear that from your perspective, especially even the connections to companies like Google. It's intertwined, which is really, there are so many opportunities for our students. There was another question that said, and I personally just love this one. It said, in recent years, TE has hired many more Lehigh engineers, especially in the last 5 years. What are the unique skills TE finds amongst Lehigh graduates?
So I think it's been a great mix. You know, I've been with TE a year and a half, so that's 2 summer intern classes and 2 rotational classes. And every engineer that I've met from Lehigh has been engaging. They've been able to explain their technical skills while still being able to communicate in a smooth, energetic, fun way. You know, I can think of one recent hire that joined the rotational program, Tom Heidemann. He got engaged with the intern community. He networked. He built his personal brand while he was here for 3 months, and that allowed him to find a position here. It was his technical skills and his ability to engage himself with TE and the network. And you know, last month he joined the rotational program.
Wonderful. We had a student just ask if you could provide your email, if you wouldn't mind.
I'll just put it in the chat window since my last name is not the most friendly.
So just another question would be, in this virtual environment, we're going to be sitting in resumes, and you talked about the automated tracking system, but how can students ensure that their resume stands out when they may not have as many in-person opportunities as they had in the past?
I think it's really important to work with you guys in career services. You know, you have templates, you have the ability to review, you have the expertise. And I think going to career services to review that resume, make sure it's formatted properly, follow those little tips and tricks, you know, whether it's just making your email a hyperlink, little things like that make it easier for us to connect with you. And so it's just important to rely on the people that have expertise in what you're looking to do. I think also taking a look at the job descriptions that are out there for the specific company you're applying for and seeing where your resume hits those skill sets, making sure that they're highlighted. A specific position is looking for MATLAB or a certain technology, make sure that's on your resume. So that we know that you have that capability and it's there to see and for the manager to see.
That makes a lot of sense. Absolutely.
And actually, I just saw in the chat window, Harry, one of our interns in Canton, Virginia, joined to say hi. So, hey, Harry, thanks for joining.
That's wonderful. So normally, students, there's a lot of opportunity for internships. And as you know, many got rescinded this summer.
Mm-hmm.
So do you feel as though not having an internship this summer will hinder full-time offers next year? Not necessarily, essentially did not have an internship at TE.
I don't think not having an internship at TE is going to hinder people. Looking at what they've done in their coursework, what they've done in projects, or if they've had internships elsewhere or project-based experiences at other companies. I think it all comes down to how you relay that experience to us. Internships are always helpful. I'm not going to lie about that. Having that previous work experience is helpful, but it's not going to put you behind. I think it's all about what you've done, whether it's school projects or other companies, and how you explain that and how you added value. I think it's important to always think about during your interviews and your conversations, think about the STAR method, the situation, task, the action, and all that. Think about that and think about on your resume, adding those quantitative numbers of your impact, reduced manufacturing time by X%, things like that show the value that you added during your experience.
And to said it better myself. Absolutely. And, when we talk to students too, it's if they don't have internships, you can also rely on some projects that you accomplish at Lehigh because of the hands-on curriculum that we have here. So it's just important to look at all of your experiences and make sure that you're pulling the most important ones and highlighting those on your resume. And I do have a feeling that come the fall, a common question from recruiters is going to be, what did you do this past time during COVID? How did you make the best use of your situation and of your time? What skills did you develop? So it's just really important to use this time wisely and develop your skills. We had another question. What are the primary operations or departments at the Harrisburg campuses? So
Harrisburg/Middletown is our biggest site that we hire interns and entry-level positions for in the U.S. right now. And so that houses some of our appliances teams, a little bit of our automotive, a good portion of our aerospace, defense, and marine team, industrial commercial transportation a little bit, application tooling. So application tooling is actually a business unit of TE's that works on making everything from a hand tool to a robotic arm to help install the products that we make. So that's what application tooling is. Those are all in the Harrisburg area. We also have some corporate research and development, finance, human resources, supply chain, those types of functions in those areas as well.
Thank you. If anybody else has any questions, you could put them in the chat, but I know, Jim, you had some questions that you'd like to ask students. So I'll turn it over to you.
And feel free to put this in the chat window. As we move into the fall, the big question for people like me and my team is how do we best engage with you as students? What are the topics you want to hear about from us? What's not on our website that you want to learn about TE? And then, so I'll pose that question first. So what are the types of events that you want to see from a company like TE to engage you guys as students? And if you're not there thinking about that yet, the simple question I have is, when do you want to hear from us? Do you want us to host events at lunchtime? Do you want us to host events in the morning? Do you want us to host events after hours, like a 7 p.m., 8 p.m. event? What's a preference there from you as a student so that, we're not interfering with your coursework? What's the best time to talk to you guys?
Any feedback? And since Jim did provide his email, if you wanted to send, we had one feedback that said events at lunch are a great time. And if you wanted to send Jim some information as well using his email as well. But it is really important, especially in this time. We are partners with our employers, and it's really important that we're giving them some information, but then they're helping us with information too. And we're all navigating this particular situation where there are a lot of really great events that worked in the past that are not really going to be feasible this time. But before some of the students came on, Jim and I and Allie had an opportunity to talk, and there might be more opportunities going forward because there is no travel time. There are no budget constraints because employers can just hop onto a Zoom or a networking opportunity. But it really does help to find out what times will work best for students and even what formats work best for the students to find out about companies. So if you have any information for Jim, please send him an email and let him know. We're all in this together. So if there aren't any other questions,
I actually, I got a question sent to me, for students that just graduated in May. What I would say is, our job opportunities are posted on LinkedIn and our career site. If you are interested in a role, I would advise you to apply now. Get engaged with us on LinkedIn. And, we are still hiring. Our hiring is down a little bit right now, but we are still out there recruiting for roles and engaging with different populations. So if you're looking for something now, whether it's computer engineering or supply chain, take a look at our career site. We do have roles posted there currently.
We brought up this topic before, that how much does an interest in the company play in the whole hiring process?
So, TE is not a big brand name. So it's on us to find ways to engage and speak to people about who we are and understand that we're 70,000 people globally. Last year, we had $13.4 billion in sales. Our CEO in an interview once said, we're the biggest company you've never heard of. And so for us, it's, hey, we're TE. We do some really cool things, but then from those really cool things, this is who we are. We recently did a campaign called You Belong Here, and it highlighted different employees, their backgrounds, their stories. And I thought that was really great because it showed people's individual personalities working in this large global corporation. So it's a mix of, for us, we need you to get to know TE. And then hopefully once you learn a little bit about who we are and what we do, that makes you interested in applying. I'm always happy to, talk about who we are. And then for me, it's the engineers and the people that are building these products and the impact that it's having. It's always great to hear them talk to students about it because I think that's really where the interest sparks.
Absolutely. And we have Lehigh Connect. So that's where our alums are for Lehigh Connects, and they can be mentors to our students. So just simply put in the search and the keyword search TE connectivity. You can also search our alums on LinkedIn. It also gives you some really insider information to find out if, what was the hiring process like? What were some of the questions you were asked? How can I best prepare? But you're also hearing it from an individual who were in your classes at Lehigh. So they are more than willing to always help out. We have an incredible alumni network for that as well. I just want to thank you so much, Jim and Allie. This was an incredible session, and this will be on our YouTube channel, so you can watch it forever. It's going to be famous for as long as the Higher Lehigh YouTube channel goes on, but we appreciate you and the partnership that we have with TE Connectivity.
Thank you so much, Jim. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate the time.